Hello, everybody. My name is Juliana Castro. I'm going to start introducing myself, then I'm going to introduce a wonderful panel, and then we're going to talk about AI. AI is, of course, kind of almost as synonymous for innovation. But what do we mean by AI? What do we really mean when we're talking about innovation in marketing, specifically to the present? How does that work in internal teams? And how does it work with audiences? Is it different? We're going to talk about today, and we have a great panel. We have Christina Cubeta, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Scope 3. We have Cheryl Guerin, the EVP of Global Brand Strategy and Innovation at Mastercard. We have Elle McCarthy, who's a former VP of Brand and GM Merchandising at Ford Motor Company. And Amy Thorne, who's the Chief Future Officer at Dentsu. And before we dive in, I want to kind of start with a personal note to get a sense of the work this great group of leaders does. You all work at the intersection of innovation and technology and marketing. So what is something that people get wrong about your job? And we're going to go this way. Christina.
I think as the Chief Marketing Officer, what people often assume is that the role is focused on just advertising and branding. But in reality, it's meant to be a strategic partner to the CEO and the exec team, to be involved in strategy and product innovation, and in particular, to provide a really strong point of view on the market, how to scale the business, and what consumers are looking for.
I suspect we might have a similar answer across the board, but yes, I mean, same thing. It's everybody assumes we're sitting in a corner just developing ads all day. It's actually the opposite of that. We're as much focused on marketing tech as we are on how we storytell and how we bring to life experiences. And I think everybody would agree the role of marketing has gotten much more complex than producing ads.
So I just led the first global rebrand for the Ford Motor Company in 12 years. And thank you. I am proud of the new tagline, Ready, Set, Ford, which I think really doesn't sound like automotive marketing, which can be a bit paint by numbers or historically has been in the past. So I'll just give you the example of what has just been said. So we took the new brand strategy to the board of directors 4 months into my role, and we put on a 2.5-hour immersive experience for them. For you New Yorkers who've attended Sleep No More, imagine that I was given 4 months to produce a version of that, but for Ford's board of directors. And I spoke in total for 5 minutes of that presentation, 2.5 minutes at the beginning and 2.5 minutes at the end. The presentation was led by the other 12 members of the executive leadership team who reported into the CEO, each in their corners presenting how their 1 to 5 year plans materially shifted as a result of this new brand strategy, which they obviously co-created. So that's, how far away we are from logos and marketing as the primary concern for brand strategy in a role like mine.
Well, I'm going to give a very different answer. As a Chief Future Officer, I think the biggest thing that's a misnomer is, do I carry a crystal ball with me? The answer is no. But I will say in truth that what most people assume is that all I do is the first part, the vision setting, the North Star, setting kind of the parameters for where we want to go. But I also have to do the how we're going to get there, at what pace, what kind of KPIs we're looking at, and how we are really truly transforming the end-to-end workflow. And that means consideration of talent, the work that we're doing from a client perspective to really take and understand their biggest pain points and to be able to deliver on that. So it's truly an end-to-end. I don't just get to sit there and, hypothesize all day. That's me.
That's great. Thank you so much. I want to start kind of big picture. What has changed with AI? AI, as we know it right now with the advent of large language models, it's kind of roughly, we can say 4 years old tops, even though many of you have been working with artificial intelligence for far longer. So what has changed specifically in your jobs in these last few years, Christina?
Sure. So I would say two things. On one side, within the marketing team ourselves, we're using AI all day, every day, but specifically we're aiming to be learn-it-alls. We're testing new things, trying new things, and seeing what's right for us and trying to develop sort of our code of honor of when it's appropriate and when something should be human-led. On the other end, my company is a technology company. We help brands grow through specifically agentic advertising products. In the marketing and advertising space, there's been tremendous advancement in the tech. Most recently, I'm sure you're all familiar with lots of conversation around how agents are the future. Agents will be marketing to agents. We use agents to market. There's been a lot of advancement in the technology that lets us take the great creativity and the campaigns that we do focus on as marketers and bring them in a really rich way at the right moment, meeting and taking advantage of the right cultural moment to reach people when they're most interested.
What AI has enabled for us is certainly a view of what we can be more efficient at, of course, productivity. And then there's, what can we do to innovate and create better products, better offerings alongside it? And sometimes those two things come together. And I've had the pleasure to announce not that long ago, we launched something called an AI card design studio. And when you think about personalization, the AI, what has AI enabled for us? We all know that consumers are looking for more personalized offerings from all of us. And so the ability now to go in, we've done two things. So one is there's a part that's for our customers, which is a business, an issuer of cards, a bank, a merchant that might be issuing cards. And we actually created a tool for them to customize their card designs. And it runs through a typical approval process that would have taken potentially days, now happens in an instant. And so we get to market faster, sooner, and everybody sees more revenue that way. That's great. The other side of it is then our customers can offer their consumers and small businesses the ability to customize their card designs. And it takes all the creativity, all the learning, all the expertise that we've done over the many years of designing cards and embedded in that tool to now put it in the hands of a consumer to really personalize it and use their creativity. So democratizes creativity and personalization, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think outside of the things that AI is enabling in the workplace today, I want to answer this question in terms of what I really care about today and what I really care about tomorrow, which is the development of young brains. Like how we develop talent in this environment has become so pressing and front of mind for me. And one of the things that I say to people who are coming into the strategic discipline, people I'm mentoring or on my team, is you've got to be the filling. If this is a sandwich, let AI be the bread on either side. Like let AI scale you, speed up your processes, but then particularly if in the art of brand strategy, take it away, think, take time away from your computer, make it 20% of the time. Because people are actually I think the phrase, Zoe Skaman is an amazing strategist in her Substack. I'm just going to plug it shamelessly here. She's amazing. She talks about cognitive atrophy. And it takes time to build the muscles to get brand strategy right and work out what anchors are going to bring it into culture. And I think to the point Amy made, great brand strategists need to be able to operationalize their strategies or see that you can operationalize them. AI helps you prototype on that on the other side of it. So once we had the brand strategic tools down that we had workshopped with the real people inside of Ford, and Ford has a family name, so you have to do it with the people. Then we were able to really rapidly prototype on the other side. But for the brand strategists who were in the middle of that process, I was like, step away from your computer, go for a walk, make connections yourself, because there are so many generic answers to what something could be. And there was a really great study that was done by Springboards recently that it's worth looking at, where they were proving that AI can seem like it's random, but it's not. So if you ask AI to generate a random number between 1 and 10, something like 92% of OpenAI's answers were 7, followed by, if you ask for another random number, either 4 or 5. And it was the same for the other AI platforms. And so what looks to you like randomness, or what looks to you like great strategy or a creative idea, actually, that's what AI is really good at. It's good at making things that look like the good thing. The good thing comes from thinking. And if you allow cognitive atrophy to decay the minds of your team or to not be developed within your teams, then that's going to be your biggest challenge. And so for me, it's talent management and, young developing brains.
Yeah, and I actually completely agree. And I was going to kind of double down here in terms of like rewiring the entire kind of ecosystem is really what it's taking. I think we've all kind of touched on that from a, talent mindset change has to happen. But I think that in terms of the rewiring overall, it's really forcing us to kind of, I think, reevaluate what the best of the best really looks like and how you get there. Because let's be honest, trying to keep up, coming from the creative side again, at Dentsu Creative, it's like, let's keep up with the media asks and the requests. And what's happened now with the agentic layers that sit within our interoperable tech stack, that's now allowing us to bring the point of creation and the point of activation together in a more seamless way than ever before. So that intelligence around storytelling, story systems is really, I think, one of the biggest changes. And everything that you've each touched on, that personalization goal that we've all had in our mind's eye for the last 10 years, we're finally getting to that point to be able to deliver on that. And it's exactly what customers are looking for.
Thank you. And I wanna now do a follow-up for Elle, but you're welcome to take this one too. You talked a little bit about the cognitive atrophy that you're trying to avoid in your teams. Where do you draw the line between what is human and what you feel comfortable automating?
I think, coming back to the idea of cognitive atrophy, I was talking to you before we came into the room about the fact that we both went to art school. So I'm a strategist today, but one day, many years ago, I was an aspiring artist. I actually dropped out of art school, but in my creative process, the thing that you learn is that you have to struggle. To get to great creative ideas, you have to struggle. And I'm actually rereading a book from, I think, the 90s or the early 2000s at the moment called The Artist's Way, which is like a step-by-step guide to being an artist and having to sit with your thoughts every day, having to take yourself on an artist date and force yourself to create for 2 hours once a week. It's like a formula for being a struggling artist. And I'm reading it right now because I want to make it mandatory reading for my teams to talk to them about what that struggle looks like and whether they're actually the creators who are creating or whether they're guiding that creativity. Embracing the struggle is the really important thing. I also think that it's really important to create AIs in your own time. And I'm sure everyone in this room does that because we're at an AI summit, and so I'm sure that we do. But the custom aspect of it is really important. And me and my husband do the same thing. We do it for different companies. And he also went to art school. We, for the last 2 years, have been building an AI called Say Chef, which is like a sous chef, but AI-driven. And initially, it was spitting out recipes that looked like good recipes and images that looked like they would look good on a plate. But it was obviously really bad. 2.5 years in, this AI is telling us what we should be planting in our garden, what we should be planting in our kitchen, what to look for that's seasonal in the farmer's market. Then we come home and we say, this is what we've bought, with a picture of it. And it says, here is a weekly menu for you, but it's like Michelin star inspired. We've uploaded maybe 100, probably 300 at this stage, different recipes to it over the last 2.5 years, things that we've adapted. And we've struggled. Like it was objectively bad for a long time. And so the creative breakthroughs that we learned were when we said, actually, we always would like this balance of salt, fat, acid, heat. Also, we really like Japanese influenced cuisine, and we would like to put some umami in. And then we were like, what should we be fermenting in our own time on a Sunday to bring into that creative process? So we've just slowly made something that actually has a really strong creative output. And I spend a lot of time reviewing bad creative that has been created by AIs. And there is a hypothesis, I've heard a lot of people say AI can't create good creative. Like through my, say, chef project with my husband, we can create good creative, but it took 2 years. And so I don't think we know where the line is right now. But I think if we as creative and strategic people are practitioners of AI and willing to commit to the struggle, we will learn where the line is.
I think you make a great point about of prototyping in the personal life. I want to talk now about, as you are thinking about where to draw the line, even though you may not know exactly where to do that, how do you think about risk? And maybe we can go with Amy, whose title is In the Future. How do you measure risk? How do you consider what are the things you're willing to take risks on with AI? And where do you feel more comfortable internal prototyping?
Well, I mean, I think we find our kind of boundaries through that level of internal MVPing and proof of concepting to basically understand the inherent risks and then the risks that we as humans add to it. I mean, let's be honest, the talent adds a level of risk factor because of how you think about exactly what you're explaining, right? But you could have an completely irreverent or irrelevant prompting that goes into something and all of a sudden it's delivering something that a client is going to kind of freak out about, right? I mean, you can. And so I think it's us testing those boundaries internally first, which is a lot of the work that we're doing right now at Dentsu Creative, which is saying, where are those boundaries? Where are we comfortable? And really bringing our clients along for that ride. Because everybody's actually there's no one fit for what does risk mean, right? Every client's going to have their own variability, where they're going to draw the lines. We internally have to have those as kind of measured approaches. But then you can start to push the limits. And I think that's actually where you start to say, today our risk factors look like we're going to really mandate specifics on prompting, right? Our prompts are structured this way. This is how we're going to govern that. These are the agents we're creating right now, and this is how we're governing them. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to have a next goalpost. Because I think that's how quickly things are really moving. And let's be honest here, like I don't think anybody in this room, myself included, can say like we're going to get to this is the status quo for a very long time on this stuff.
Cheryl?
And so it's really exciting, and I don't think we should be scared of it.
No, and I was just going to say, going back to what both of you have said, you can take thoughtful risks, but you could de-risk by using humans in the process. And that's the reality. There's been a number of things we've done. The amount of, we keep talking about AI taking jobs, and I know there's risk there. And in some jobs, you could create more efficiency, and then hopefully those people can be used for higher functioning activities. But the reality is I've had to get more people working on AI than the other way around. I need people who are brand strategists and experts who are training the tone of voice. And so it's not just, it's the prompts, the inputs, the testing, the training, the ongoing iteration. This requires real people. We launched something called Small Business AI. It's a mentor, and it's meant to give access and a guide to every day to small businesses. That's a risk if you go out and it's not right. And so the amount of care we put into getting real small business mentors, real experts at our company, real cybersecurity technical inputs in there so that we de-risked it. Those took human people to do that. The combination is how you take thoughtful risks, actually.
That's great. Thank you. I would now want to talk about measuring impact beyond speed. Of course, you've all covered how AI can make teams more efficient. What are things that AI has made possible that would have been otherwise completely impossible? And for this one, I'm going to make strike eye contact to see who wants to take it first, but we can go around. What is something that without AI you simply would not have been able to do, and not AI is doing something a little faster than otherwise?
I'll jump in. We're Adobe's AOR, and so we've been on this journey, as you all know, the Adobe impact into this world, and what Firefly and all of their tools actually, from Workfront into Express, how they can actually deliver on this promise of what wasn't possible before is now possible. But I'll give you the example really quickly of how we work with their Major League Baseball sponsorship. And, we went into kind of the all-star game going, let's create something that's really tangible. How do we start to create these manifestation of these different baseballs, right? What do they look like? How can we dream up something that has never been turned into something produced, right? Because we're taking it from big idea, big concept, and we're actually going to tangibly deliver that. It's a cloud baseball, right? It's a baseball on fire. It's all of these things that all of a sudden, the time that it took to go from this idea to realization was really truncated. So you get the efficiency factor in there. What's really impressive, though, is that in the postseason, what we did is we actually gave access, much deeper access to this same kind of thinking and prompting around what would you create around a mascot, bringing in the players, bringing in fans, creating something that isn't just beholden to the creative team, but actually delivering that and creating something that was remarkable and tangible as an output to those folks playing around with Express. So you take it from Firefly to Express, you deliver on these big dreams and aspirations, things that, three-dimensionally you would have had to take how many people and how many months or years in the past to actually be able to deliver that. And while you can say that's an efficiency play, I actually think that's much more about a tangible empowerment play.
So one of the, I think, unfortunate things about the marketing role is there are some age-old things that get said, right? We have the shortest tenure around the executive table. There's studies every year that show that $20 billion goes wasted in the digital supply chain. And that's quite frustrating, I think, specifically for our position. One of the things I'm seeing AI do is create a more direct line between advertising spend and growth and revenue and the ability to see that. It's really enabling, I think, marketers to, through agentic, be able to cut through that waste, optimize better. And I will go so far as to say that I think it's going to be the great reckoning for the CMO position. I think it'll be one of the biggest growth drivers since social media became one of the main, mechanisms by which we receive news. So I think in terms of impossible, I think we've got a lot possible here.
That's wonderful. I want to talk now. You talked a little bit about just kind of clients and customers and then internally. So I want to talk about trust. AI gets, depending on the industry you're in, a bad rep or not. But how do you build trust internally with teams, with talent? And how do you build trust externally with clients? And are those processes different? I want to start with Cheryl, just because you have a kind of very large and trusted brand that you work for, but we can go around.
I mean, right now, as we think about what AI is about to enable, we've all longed for this personal assistant that would get things done for us at any given moment, plan a kid's birthday party or help us plan our travel in an instant and go get those Taylor Swift tickets, whatever you need. And that's about to become a reality. And so when you look at the world of what's happening, I would say there's two parts to this that I'll cover here. One is in commerce, how do you remain trusted? And how do we help our clients, which is, our customers, every merchant out there, remain trusted? And, as AI agents go out and actually make purchases on your behalf, what's going to happen in this world? Imagine when you go to make a return and, when you have an e-commerce transaction or something comes that's not right, or the agent buys you something that's not what you had intended, what do you do? And so this is the trust that Mastercard has built our, business on for, 50 plus years. And so we'll play that same role. We are introducing, we launched Agent Pay as an example, and it will enable every merchant to connect and leverage protections that we have, just like you have today in this world. So one, how do you remain a trusted commerce partner for our customers, the merchants, the banks, and for consumers? That's, one way. The second way is an interesting way. We've done this multi-sensory sort of branding. So in every aspect, when behavior changes, we've reset our branding to become trust cues in ways that give people peace of mind to make a purchase and or feel good about that purchase after they make it. And that started with sonic branding when the emergence of audio speakers happened. That is a haptic brand, which we created. When you make a transaction, you can feel the vibration, literally feel peace of mind when you're making a transaction. And then in the world of AI, we've created, for every prompt that goes through any chatbot or any product that we create, the signals of thinking, answering, et cetera. So it's just a rethinking of our branding system. Now we call them trust cues. That's what they are, trust signals.
We also call the Ford brand the trust mark. And having been a very static, oval, we needed to bring more things to life around it so that when you see Ford, you definitely recognize that it is Ford. And that, as you say, becomes multi-sensory. And obviously, there was a lot more conversation about VR before AI took over, but the VR is coming. And so how you think about your brand guidelines and making sure that they can live across all of these different ways that people experience them so they know that it's your brand. I mean, for your brand more than most, you're really on the leading edge of it. It's super important.
So you talked about internal versus external. Internally, one of the things I saw is that as we started to introduce new tools, some folks started to clam up. And I made sure that we had a debate about that. As soon as I saw that, I was like, closed door, it's okay, whatever gets said here, what about this is making you uncomfortable? And so it turns out there was concern about original thought versus AI slop, something that I'm sure you guys think about all the time. So I think creating that psychological safety to voice opinion internally, and then externally, one of the things we think about strongly is learning in the open. So I'll just tell a very quick story, which is we released an early product. It was in its demo form. You weren't able to use it yet. And one evening we saw that there were some queries on it that made us really uncomfortable. Someone was trying to get it to do hateful and violent things. Immediately, we rewrote the code, installed some safety guidelines, and we could have kept that a secret and built it into production and rolled it out. But instead, we explained that and told the public immediately, probably within an hour, and we had our CEO do it. And we did it on LinkedIn. And I think it's also new that this concept that someone's going to be an expert and we're all going to get it right, it's transparency builds trust. So for us, it's about learning in the open and creating psychological safety.
Thank you. Amy, do you want to close?
Just really quickly, I think productive discomfort, Dentsu Creative, we're going to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's the journey we're on. We also believe very much in taking in and co-developing. So with partners like Adobe, with partners like Microsoft, with our creative teams, and that means account people as well as production people. It's really important that they're along for the ride. It's really important that they see themselves in those tools so that their curiosity thrives and they're ready to just dive right in. I think those are really important factors for us. So I would say productive discomfort is one of those that we take to both our internally
I'm bringing
and
that back.
externally.
Nice.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do one final question, and if you can keep it very brief, that would be wonderful. Maybe just a few words, 2 or 3, or a specific kind of idea. We don't have to get into detail, but what is an area, a bold idea, a specific kind of work area that you think everybody else is overlooking, but you think you're doing right, or you think more companies or more teams should be looking into that? One example could be agents, but agents don't seem to be overlooked.
I think it's talent. There's this whole conversation about how AI is going to replace talent. I think it's not true. I think, imagine you can just outsource the things you're not great at or to help you speed up, I think this is a great opportunity for our talent there's our superstars to really explode.
I'll say plus AI orchestration. I think you need to start looking at mapping out not just these single-use creative agents, but how they orchestrate together from insight to actual campaign output. So full orchestrated motions.
I'll double down on one of the things I started with and say, I don't know if you remember how famous Google was for like the 20% time. I think 20% time is an idea of 20% of your time not using AI as a mandated thing in companies would be a really practical way to action what I was saying about cognitive atrophy.
And I would just say creator identification. So being able to tie back the orchestration, the success, back to the origination. I think that's really important.
That's a great way to end. Thank you so much.